Anthony Elanga has just signed for Newcastle for about £55 million. And in this video, I'm going to talk about if he's worth it or did Newcastle overpay. Before I start, could you like, comment, share, subscribe, and thank you for watching. Let's start with his upbringing, you could say, the beginning of his story. And so how it started is he was born in 2002, which makes him about 23 years old. He came through the Manchester United system. I forgot about that. I forgot that he signed from Manchester United to Nottingham Forest. I think it was 2023 and for about £15 million. And I bet United definitely are regretting that. Instead of Garnacho, and for some reason they hate Rashford nowadays, but instead of those two, it could have been Elanga on one of those sides. And I'm pretty sure Amorim would have really appreciated Elanga. And even if he didn't, he could have sold him for a lot of money, like how Nottingham Forest have just done so far. So his position is a right winger, but he can also play as a forward. He's a very, very fast player, and he's great for those counter-attacking systems that a lot of managers use nowadays. And in this season for Nottingham Forest, he was very pivotal to make Nottingham Forest at one point at his peak, getting Nottingham Forest second, and eventually they ended up in 7th, which is still massive for Nottingham Forest because they were last season, they were on the verge of relegation, but they were very close to get relegated. But they survived, and he's a big part of the reason why Nottingham Forest came in 7th place this season and qualified for European football. I'm pretty sure it's Conference League, but I'm not too sure. I'm pretty sure it's Conference League. And here's some reasons why. Some of his stats I'll talk to you about and explain what makes Elanga so good. So this season he scored 6 goals and he assisted 11 times in 38 matches, but 31 of them were starts, so the rest of the 7 appearances were substitute. So to be honest, that's about 17 goal contributions in about 31 starts, and that's more than a goal contribution a game. That's pretty impressive for a winger who, let's face it, Nottingham Forest, they're a defensive side. They like to kind of park the bus and hit on teams, break on them, counter-attack them. And that's what made him so pivotal, so great, and he contributed about 17 goal contributions in those 31 starts. And that's pretty phenomenal for a team that were last season battling for relegation. He's mostly known for his pace and vertical dribbling, and that's what makes him so effective in a counter-attacking side. Not just for counter-attacking side, even if you want to play like how Pep usually does that tiki-taka, he's great for just getting the ball, moving forward, and then maybe you could tiki-taka, like do the short passing, near more attacking, more potent, to get more opportunities. So if you're doing like the tiki-taka stuff in the middle of the pitch, that's okay. But if you do it like near the 18-yard box, that's much more better for Pep Guardiola, obviously, because he can get more chances. And what Guardiola and tiki-taka is basically, you're trying to get the best available shot to score. And that's what Elanga could do. He can get the ball from the halfway line, go all the way to the 18-yard box, and he probably would shoot. But let's say he played in a tiki-taka system, what he would do is he just start passing around, and his team would eventually find the best shot and score. That's why he's actually great for a tiki-taka team as well. But he's probably best suited for a counter-attacking team. One thing he probably needs to refine on, do better in, is his successful dribbles and his ball retention. Those are actually quite low. It's surprising, but if you look at the stats, they are quite low. And I don't really know why, but he's just he's not good at it, but he needs to improve that part of his game. And at just 23 years old, he just turned 23 in the end of April. He definitely has time to do it, and he's going to Eddie Howe, and that's definitely a manager who can make him get better at that. What was done to Anthony Gordon, he can definitely try and implement some of his parts of the game to Anthony Elanga. He's actually quite great at ball recoveries and duels. And because Nottingham Forest, they're more of a defensive side, he's kind of had to do that. But I feel like in a more attacking team, such as Newcastle, he doesn't have to do that as much. But even if he does, he'll do the pressing, which a lot of managers love to do, and it's kind of a requirement, kind of an essential criteria for managers nowadays, that you need to be able to press, and he'll be able to do that job great because he's great like defending one-on-one with the defender. And I guess when you're one-on-one and defender, they're not going to have those technical abilities to try and dribble their way out of the attacker. And I feel like if he's great at defending, he can take the ball and he won't be through on goal, but there's a good chance he'll be through on goal if he tackles like the last defender or the defenders. There's four of them. He tackles the centre back. He just run through them. Maybe centre back on the left side, but he could just go past them and then eventually be one-on-one with the keeper. And maybe that's what Newcastle might look. One key thing that is really not rare, but it's not that common nowadays, is to play pretty much all the Premier League games, and that's something that Elanga has done. Yes, albeit he made 7 appearances as subs, but he featured in every single Premier League game. And next season is obviously going to be different with more football and European football, because he's going to go to Newcastle. They'll play in the Champions League, I think, and more competitions. Obviously, they rotate him, but he can definitely play in those games and he play much more. And that's something which is rare nowadays, especially for a fast counter-attacking player like him. And because he's fast, he's more likely to get injured, if that makes sense, because athletic players, they rely on their physicals quite a lot, the physical attributes, and they'll break down quicker, if that makes sense, than technical players. And so far, I don't want to do, jinx him, which is mashallah, but he just has not got injured yet. No, he doesn't got injured yet, but this season he's featured in every single Premier League game. And I feel like there's something which is very underrated for players nowadays, and is a key trait that is needed, that is really wanted by managers, and he'll be great for Eddie Howe. Now, you could say repercussions or the consequences of Elanga leaving. Let's start with Nottingham Forest, the selling club. If Elanga leaves, Nottingham Forest, they'll play in the Europa Conference League. Obviously, they would have liked to have played in the Champions League, but they're playing in the Conference League. If they had got to the Champions League, I think Elanga would have definitely stayed, but thus he hasn't, and he's left for a great deal, £55 million. And did you know Man United are going to get about 8 million of them? But the thing is, he's left now, and they have to replace the right winger position. I'm not too knowledgeable on Nottingham Forest players, but I don't really think they have a already replacement in their club. I'll just go into Elanga's place. So they're definitely going to try to sign a player, and to get a player who's Premier League proven, and he's actually done pretty good in a Premier League team, and he's actually overperformed in an overperforming team, which a team should have, before realistically, should have been mid-table or below mid-table. I don't think you can find a player like that, or you have to overpay. One of the options maybe is Eze, but he's going to Arsenal. I don't think he'll go to Nottingham Forest. And Forest, they don't have that big of a pulling power as other clubs who finished above them do. Like even Newcastle, Aston Villa, they can probably attract bigger players than Nottingham Forest can, especially with them playing, a higher level of European competition than Nottingham Forest do. They play in the Conference League, but they could definitely sign some players. Maybe they could go for Jared Bowen, I'm not sure, but they've got a lot of money now, and they could definitely sign a replacement. But the replacement needs to be at least a little bit less than Elanga. Or ideally, they would want a better player, or a player who's actually at the level, but it'd be hard to find. And not because they're not much players, but they just wouldn't want to go to Nottingham Forest when they could go to other clubs. And so that's going to be very hard for Nottingham Forest to replace. But they definitely could do it, but it's going to be very hard. They'd have to look at very underrated players who haven't been looked at, players who haven't got the fame, the popularity, or to pull those big clubs. And they could maybe sign Nottingham Forest, and that could be the replacement. Or they just stick with a person from the club within and try and tape in the patches, if that makes sense, because they don't really have the replacement. They could do that. And let's go with Newcastle United. Newcastle United, they're going to buy Elanga, £55 million. I feel that's a great deal. And now their front three is looking very, very scary. They have Alexander Isak up front, or Isaac. I think pronounce Isaac, and Anthony Gordon on the left, and on the right it will be Anthony Elanga. Now that team is pacey, direct, and Isaac is clinical as well, and that will make a scary looking front three. And generally, they have the ability, and they definitely in the debate for the best attack in the league. Better than Liverpool, you could say that, because them front three combined, I think they could be better than Liverpool. Manchester City, probably, yeah. But Newcastle have better attack. Chelsea, they have Delap, could be Astor or Neto, on the left Jamie Gittins. I feel like they haven't been proven in the Prem, Gittins, and obviously Neto has. And as a Chelsea fan, I would want to say Chelsea's attack is better, but I feel like Newcastle just edges it with how good Isaac and Gordon have been performing this season. And also did get the better of us, but again there was a red card in that match, but still they're pretty good. And the way Newcastle are gonna shape up this season is gonna be interesting, because the way Eddie Howe likes to play is he mixes it up. He sometimes goes with a more possession-based game, and sometimes goes with a counter-attacking system. And sometimes it depends on the opposition. But let's say they go with a counter-attacking system, Elanga will be great, perfect for them. And they'll have Jacob Murphy in behind, getting lots of assists. Elanga just running. And I feel like they could probably get to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. It's not impossible, and to be honest, in my opinion, it's not hard to get into the quarterfinals. You just get easy. You just get through the first. It's not 16 first. Get to the top 24. They get an easy round 16 playoff leg, and then you get another easy round 16 tie. That's quite easy to do, to be honest. And then a quarterfinal. If they get knocked out, they get knocked out. But that's how easy to get to the quarterfinal. I think Newcastle will definitely get there, with Elanga in the team. And how they'll play is probably, if they want to go possession-based team, Elanga could still play. He'll just have to adapt his game, and that's something that Eddie Howe definitely can make him do, like ask him to do it, and he could definitely adapt his game. And with Gordon and Elanga, they're going to be a pacey team. Defenders need to be aware of them, and I feel like they have the best attack in the league. I don't think there's anyone better with Elanga in them. I think Newcastle United have the best attack in the league. And is Elanga worth it? Well, I feel like for a Prem proven player who played in an underperforming team for £55 million, he's a decent player, he's a great player, and I feel like he's definitely worth it. I feel like Newcastle have made a great signing. You could say a bargain, but I feel it's a great signing, and he should go on to be a good player. Thank you for watching. Could you like, comment, share, subscribe, and thank you for watching. If you have any other players you want me to talk about, explain, if you want me to ask if they're worth it or not, let me know down in the comments, and thank you for watching.